Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today we're going over Anaxa as he will be releasing soon, so I thought I can give my thoughts on his full kit, themes, and then overall value. Before we begin today's video, for the question of the day, let me know if you are pulling for Anaxa yourself or if you're skipping him, and for who. Lastly, if you enjoy videos like these, do make sure to subscribe, hit the like button to support the video, and now let's get straight into it. To begin, let's go over Anaxa's kit. Anaxa is a Wind Erudition character who focuses on inflicting numerous weaknesses onto enemies, which does result in him being able to deal increased damage onto enemies as well, and being able to attack enemies very frequently. When it comes to Anaxa's basic attack, he'll inflict damage onto a single enemy. Anaxa's skill will deal damage to a single enemy, and then there will be 4 additional instances of damage which prioritize bouncing to enemy targets that have not been hit yet by this instance of his skill. Anaxa's skill being a bounce attack is great in the case of dealing with an enemy in a single target scenario, as he'll be able to hit the enemy initially with his skill, and then the rest of the 4 additional instances of damage will also hit that enemy. It's also worth noting that his skill will deal increased damage depending on how many enemies are on the field. As it mentions, for each attackable enemy on the field, Anaxa's skill has its damage dealt increased by 20%. As for Anaxa's weakness implant, which is a huge part of his kit, whenever Anaxa lands 1 hit onto an enemy, he'll inflict a random weakness onto them for 3 turns, with a priority of a weakness that is not already inflicted onto them. And once an enemy has 5 weaknesses on them, they'll be afflicted with the qualitative disclosure state, which Anaxa will deal 30% increased damage to enemies afflicted with qualitative disclosure. Additionally, when Anaxa uses his basic attack or skill now on an enemy inflicted with qualitative disclosure, he'll now be able to deal 1 additional instance of his skill onto targets. This additional skill does not consume any skill points, and he'll also gain energy from this additional instance of his skill as well. This basically means he can skill twice in a row and you only have to use 1 skill point to do this, or if you're using a basic attack, you'll gain a skill point and you'll still be able to take advantage of that additional instance of his skill, which is very nice in scenarios where you may be low on skill points. This results in Anaxa being able to attack very frequently now, as well as regenerate energy quickly. Let's say he was on a team with a character that can advance him forward. This now results in you being able to deal 2 skills in a row, advance forward Anaxa, and then being able to deal another 2 skills in a row, which allows him to have high attacking frequency overall. I have mentioned this example in prior videos, but let's just go over this rotation example. Let's say each skill dealt a total of 200,000 damage to just make this simple. Since he can now skill twice in a row when enemies are in the qualitative state, this results in 1 instance of 200,000 damage, then immediately another instance of 200,000 damage, resulting in a total of 400,000 damage. Then if you advance him forward and he does it again, now you end up dealing 800,000 damage onto enemies just like that. So him taking advantage of the qualitative disclosure state will be huge for his damage potential, and it's really easy to get these enemies into the qualitative disclosure state just from him attacking enemies, and then of course also his ultimate, which we'll discuss his ultimate very shortly here. And his qualitative disclosure state, as I mentioned, will be huge for his damage potential, but even really nice when it comes to his dual DPS capabilities when paired with characters such as the Herta, Jade, Himiko, and so on. Now, when it comes to Anaxa's ultimate, he'll attack all enemies on the field and inflict the sublimation state onto every enemy on the field, which will now have every weakness inflicted onto them. And if they do not have control resistance, they are unable to take action in the sublimation state, which this state will last until the start of that target's turn. So this is just a nice way to ensure that the enemy has all of the weaknesses inflicted onto them. And then for Anaxa's technique, he'll inflict the terrified state onto enemies. Terrified enemies will flee in a direction away from Anaxa, and after entering battle, Anaxa applies 1 weakness of the attacker's type to every enemy target, lasting for 3 turns. As for Anaxa's traces, this is where he has even more potential for furthering his damage output, and also some supportive potential as well. Anaxa's trace qualitative shift allows Anaxa's damage to ignore 4% of an enemy's defense for every weakness inflicted onto them, upward to 7 weaknesses. Anaxa is easily able to inflict all weaknesses onto enemies with this kit, which as a result can allow him to take advantage of ignoring 28% of enemies' defenses. This trace is useful for furthering Anaxa's damage potential, and as for Anaxa's trace Imperative Hiatus, based on the number of Erudition characters on the team, one of the following effects will be triggered in battle. When there's only one Erudition character on the team, Anaxa's crit damage will increase by 140%, which essentially means if Anaxa is the only Erudition character on the team, he can take advantage of this 140% additional crit damage effect, which is useful for hypercarry Anaxa. If there are at least 2 Erudition characters on the team though, then all allies' damage dealt will increase by 50%. This allows now the entire team to deal more damage, and this is very useful for furthering the potential of Anaxa with the Herta, Anaxa with Himiko, and so on. Do keep in mind though that you can only have one of these effects active at once. As for Anaxa's last trace, Roaming Signifier, whenever Anaxa uses a basic attack, he'll additionally regenerate 10 energy, and at the start of a turn, if there are no enemies with the Qualitative Disclosure state, you will immediately regenerate 30 energy. This trace is great for Anaxa being able to gain more energy in order to get closer to being able to use his ultimate. Overall, Anaxa has a pretty fun kit when it comes to the immense attacking frequency he'll be able to take advantage of when enemies are afflicted with Qualitative Disclosure. And now that we've gone over the basics of his kit, let's go over team synergies. When it comes to team building with Anaxa, you can focus on his dual DPS capabilities or hypercarry possibilities. When it comes to dual DPS Anaxa, he'll be a very nice pair for the Herta due to the fact that he'll be able to attack twice in a row when enemies are afflicted with Qualitative Disclosure, which now results in him being able to nicely regenerate energy for the Herta and quickly stack interpretation onto enemies. Anaxa will be able to provide the team the 50% damage boost as mentioned, and the Herta will actually be able to provide the team her 80% crit damage boost for having 2 Erudition characters on the team. You can use Anaxa with Jade, as Anaxa's attacking frequency can nicely be utilized for gaining stacks for Jade so that she can unleash frequent follow-up attacks. You can also use Anaxa and Himiko, which I've actually showcased this recently, and this is a fun synergy for being able to implant fire weakness onto enemies, and Himiko being able to take advantage of this in order to unleash more frequent follow-up attacks. You can use more dual DPS options as well. And for the dual DPS teams, I would recommend having a team-wide buffer, which can be Tribbie, Ruame, Robin, and so on. You can still use a single target buffer, but then you will have to do a bit of experimentation when it comes to determining which character you want to end up buffing. You can also use debuffers in the supportive slot. For example, Pela or Jiao Cho. For the sustain option, I would recommend Lingsha, Huohua, Aventurine, and so on. This ultimately comes down to which sustains you have available on your account, and Lingsha's attacking frequency is great for gaining the Herta energy and assisting to break enemies that are fire weak if she is used with Himiko. Huohua is great for the attack and energy with her ultimate, and so on. Now for hypercarry Anaxa teams, this would consist of using him with 2 supports in the sustain, or even no sustain and having 3 supports with Anaxa. I would recommend taking advantage of a character who can advance forward Anaxa so that you're able to take advantage of the frequent attacks he can unleash with the Qualitative Disclosure state on enemies. Sunday is an excellent option for the advance forward, damage boost, the crit rate, the crit damage, the energy he can provide Anaxa, and much more. You can use alternative characters to advance forward Anaxa though, such as Bronya. You will just have to keep in mind the skill point usage though, and then you can also consider using Remembrance Trailblazer. They could be a nice support as well, as Anaxa could take advantage of the true damage that Remembrance Trailblazer can provide with Mem support. Other supports you can have on the team can be Robin for her damage boost, attack boost, team-wide advance forward, Tribbie for the ult-type res pen with her skill, enemies taking increased damage from the zone from her ultimate, Ruame could be useful for her damage buffs, the ult-type res pen from her ultimate, and much more. Other options as mentioned can be Pela, Jiao Cho, and overall there are a nice mixture of supports you can use with Anaxa. As for a very fun team idea though, you can even try Super Break Anaxa. Since Anaxa will be able to attack as frequently as he does, and his skill being bounce instead of AoE can result in nice toughness reduction onto enemies, which you could end up using him, for example, with Ruame, Fugue, Harmony Trailblazer. You do have a sustain, Linkshar Gallagher, or even considering using him with Himiko, Ruame, and then maybe no sustains, so Fugue or Harmony Trailblazer as a possibility. This would more so just be a fun team overall though. Before going over Anaxa's value, I thought real quick we can go over how to build him for those that are curious. For relics, I would recommend Scholar Lost in Erudition, Genius Lost in the Brilliant Stars, as he is able to implant quantum weakness onto enemies. Eagle of Twilight Line allows him to advance himself forward after using his ultimate and take advantage of the additional wind damage, or Pioneer Diver of Dead Waters for more debuff heavy teams. For planars, I would recommend Izumo if he is on a dual DPS team with another Erudition character, and Rutilant if he is on a hypercarry team. Do keep in mind though, you can still use Rutilant for dual DPS Anaxa teams if you have very good Rutilant pieces for him. For main stats, we're looking at crit rate or crit damage body. If you have a lot of crit rate and substats, then you can consider crit damage body. Otherwise, go for crit rate body. Speed boots, attack or wind orb, and attack rope. For substats, you'll focus on crit rate, crit damage, speed, and attack. Lastly, for his light cones, a nice budget-friendly option will be Great Cosmic Enterprise for those who aren't pulling his signature. I would say after getting to test out Anaxa, he does have nice flexibility when it comes to his team building options due to the benefits he provides, dual DPS Erudition teams, as well as his attacking frequency when it comes to being a main damage dealer with supports that would further his damage potential, as well as allowing him to take more actions throughout a fight. When it comes to Anaxa and endgame modes, his flexibility allows him to be a viable option in all of the modes. Most will likely pair Anaxa with the Herta, which is a very nice option, as the Herta will be able to nicely take advantage of the attacking frequency that Anaxa offers, which results in her gaining more energy, being able to inflict more interpretation stacks onto enemies, and much more. When it comes to Anaxa's overall value, he is a strong option to consider when you are using him in your Herta team if you want to take advantage of his team flexibility when it comes to hypercarry or dual DPS for endgame. And of course, if you like his character and would like to acquire him on your account. Another nice thing about Anaxa is that he has an awesome free-to-play light cone, which is the Great Cosmic Enterprise that we are able to currently acquire from the Star Rail World event. So this is nice for budget players who are considering Anaxa. I would also recommend, if you are on the fence, wait until the version 3.4 splash art reveals, which will be in about a week from now, to see who's in 3.4. And also waiting until the version 3.3 live stream for Hyacine and Cipher to see if any of these characters from 3.3 or even 3.4 might interest you more than what is currently available. I would love to know though if you're pulling Anaxa or if you're skipping him for someone else, and thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy, consider subscribing to see more content from me, and I hope you all have a great one. Peace.